Welcome, everybody, to Broadway's Best. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Caroline Kohles, and I'm the Director of Health and Wellness Programming at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan and a neo-somatic education trainer and instructor. Once a month, my co-host, Broadway performer Mandy Gonzalez, and I join forces in order to bring you the most up-to-date information on breast cancer. This series is beneficial for everyone, but geared specifically to those living with or recovered from breast cancer. And we created this program specifically to give people hope and to help get the word out about our free virtual JCC cancer care programs, which include a variety of exercise classes, plant-based cooking classes, meditative art classes, and healthy living lectures, as well as our annual spa day for women in treatment with cancer. Anyone whose life has been impacted by cancer can participate, and the good news is that all of our programs are absolutely free. To find out more, please check out our website at www.mmjccm.org/cancer.care, and you can find this link in the comments or in the chat as well. Now it's time to turn on the spotlight and welcome my co-host and friend, Mandy Gonzalez. Hey, Mandy.
Hi, Caroline.
How
Hi,
you doing, girl?
everybody. Happy May. I'm so happy to be here with all of you tonight. I'm so happy to see you, Caroline. I'm Mandy Gonzalez. Some of you may know me from the work that I've done on Broadway in shows like In the Heights, Wicked, and Hamilton. I recently have published my first novel, my first middle grade novel with Simon and Schuster. So I can now say I'm also an author, which is so exciting. And this past year, I went through treatment for breast cancer. So I am also a breast cancer survivor, thriver, and this series has brought me so much joy and hope during my process, and I hope it does the same for you guys.
Yes, I'm so excited that you are an author now and I
I
have your
know.
book. I've been reading it. It's so much fun. And Mandy will actually have to leave a little bit early tonight because you have a book event starting at 7, which is why we started a little bit early today.
Yes, thank you
And
guys.
you're going to be in conversation with RJ Palacio.
Palacio. Yes,
Ah,
RJ Palacio is going to be talking with me on the Words bookstore, my local bookstore, on their website. You can see it in the chat. And RJ Palacio, some of you may know her from her incredible book and movie that she wrote called Wonder. That definitely was a favorite for myself and my daughter. But she's also written a book called White Bird, which is also just as beautiful. So, info on my new book and how to join the book event after our show is in the chat. So,
and
you guys
also how to
can.
purchase it, right?
Yes,
So we have
yes.
that as well. And all of us at Broadway Best are so proud of you, Mandy. Just
Oh,
congratulations.
thank you so much, Caroline. And thank everybody, behind the scenes and everything. You guys have just been like my family here. So in this virtual element, I cannot wait till we can actually meet in person
I
because
know.
that hasn't happened for us yet. But one day it's going to happen for
It
sure.
is. At least we're both in New York City now. I've
Yes.
been spending so much of the pandemic in Pennsylvania, but
Yeah.
I'm so glad to be back in my beloved city. And tonight's
Yay.
show is the first part of a 3-part series that we are doing in conjunction with our dear collaborator, Melissa Rosen and Sharsheret, which is a Jewish breast and ovarian cancer organization that helps women and their families face breast cancer. June's topic will be about radiation treatments, and then July's topic will be about hormone therapy. And today's topic, of course, is chemotherapy. So, Mandy, I thought we would start with a mindfulness break to ground and center us. And I love the stretches that you had us do. I think it's such a good time as spring is here and we're starting to get outside more and open up and to get our shoulders back. Do you want to do some of those? I think it was this exercise that we did. Do you
Yes,
remember?
after my surgery, I had a really hard time lifting my arm on the right side. That's where I had my surgery. And I remember my mother-in-law, who is also a breast cancer survivor, told me that one thing that she did was make these like little crawling motions in the shower. And she said, one day you'll see you can just crawl all the way to the top. And it's so true. But for me, something that really helps me is to really get in touch with my body through breath And so now, if you all want to take a seat, if you can, if you're already sitting, that's fine. But just either close your eyes or keep them open and really pay attention to your diaphragm. And that is the place between your belly button and your rib cage. And notice, just try to notice the diaphragm going in and out. If you want to put your hand right there so you can really see that when you breathe, the diaphragm does, it pushes out. And this is a place, I think, when I'm feeling fearful, that I remind myself to breathe. A lot of people say, breathe from the belly, to breathe from my belly, to know that all of those thoughts are just thoughts. And what matters the most is right here in this moment. And then for me, Caroline, I used to take, and I still do, take my hands together like this. And I would just lift as far as I could lift. It's so great because now I can go all the way up, and you will too. And then you just come right back down like this. And then one more time, just go up like this. And breathe. And if we can just pull our shoulders back. I'd like to say sometimes 5, 6, 7, 8 because I work on Broadway, but I won't do that to you guys today. And move the shoulders forward. It feels
I
so
love that.
nice,
5,
right?
6, 7, 8.
Always. Oh, in my head, it just is a constant. But then we can roll our head around.
Oh, feels good.
Oh my
I've been,
gosh.
oh,
The cracks, and then the other way.
oh, that feels so wonderful. You know, the body seeks pleasure. So when we do things that move our body, it's so good for us. And it so reinforces that even when we're going through treatment or difficult times, that there is a way to feel better. And in NIA, we say that anytime we feel better, we're healing our body, right? Anytime we move towards that, we define that as actually healing. So,
That's beautiful.
so
And that
Mandy,
makes a
are
lot
you
of
going to
sense.
sing?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to sing a little bit early today just because I have to make sure that I have everything together before tonight. And then I'll stay with you, Caroline, as long as I
So,
can.
yeah, and tell me a little bit about this song in relationship to cancer treatments and the title of this. And
No, absolutely. So this song is called Fearless. And this was the title track for my album that was released in 2017. And, you know, I started this movement on social media, I guess in about 2000, at the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. And I called it hashtag Fearless Squad because I had a lot of people writing me, telling me stories of how they felt like they didn't have a place to belong. And I said, well, if you don't have a place to belong, you can just be part of my Fearless Squad. And it immediately connected me to so many people. And so when I was creating this album, I wanted to create an album that filled people with the same kind of inspiration. And so I had to be fearless and ask my dear friend, you may know him, Lin-Manuel Miranda, if he would write a song for my album. And he said, yeah, I'm going to write a song for your Fearless Squad, and it's going to be called Fearless. He doesn't talk like that, so it's just my interpretation. And he did, and he wrote this beautiful song. And for me, to be fearless is not to live without fear. It's to feel the fear and keep going. And this song tells the beautiful story of my parents who met as pen pals during Vietnam. And my father was Mexican American. My mother was Jewish American. And at the time they fell in love, my mother's family felt that it wouldn't work because they were culturally different. And they decided that they were going to follow their hearts, and they eloped and had us. And I never knew this story because my parents have always, I was raised with both sets of grandparents. Sorry, my daughter. But it really taught me, that story taught me about following your heart. And sometimes it can make a difference when you're fearless. So I hope you enjoy this. It's called Fearless.
awesome.
We begin fearless. We crawl, we walk, we run until we fall. Begin again, begin again. We climb until the world puts up a wall. We learn to flinch, we don't remember when. We feel the pinch of don't do that again. Endless lists of don't do that again. Don't do that again. They put us in boxes, affix us with a label on the side. They win again, they win again. They dim the lights, we shut the door and hide. But as we grow and make this place our own, I let you in and I am less alone. I am less alone, I am less alone, I am less alone. You remind me of something I've always known. And when I see you, I am fearless. When I'm around you, I am fearless. When I am near you, I am fearless. Now gather round if you can hear this. And hand in hand we can be fearless. We take a stand and we are fearless. When I'm in doubt, you make me fearless. Begin again, begin again. My mother wrote letters to soldiers overseas. She was doing her part. She was 17. My father responded. He was stationed overseas, and he won her heart slowly, sight unseen. He writes her, wait for me, and I'll survive this war. A year goes by, and there's a soldier at the door. Her parents raged, they didn't know. She has to choose to stay or go. And I am here because they were fearless. They stood their ground and they were fearless. They blazed a trail by being fearless. Begin again, begin again. And when we find each other fearless, we're right behind each other fearless. The walls are gone when we are fearless. Begin again, begin again. We can be fearless. We can try to change the world, and when we fall, begin again, chicken again. I know that you and I can do it all. And when the fear's the only thing that's real, I let you in and I begin to feel fearless.
Mandy,
Oh.
my God.
Oh, Caroline.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It means so many things to me, that song, after going through cancer and going through what everybody has been through this past year of the pandemic. And it's true, we begin again every day. It can start anew. You feel like, oh, this is the worst I could ever feel. And then you have tomorrow and you begin again. And it just gets better. So I hope you guys keep that with you.
Right. Thank you so much for inspiring all of us, every month with your music and your story. And this message is so important. And now we're going to talk about, we have a 3-part series, and we're going to talk about chemotherapy tonight. We've got some medical experts on. Anybody, if you have questions out there that you want answered, write them in. We'll get them answered for you. Dr. Alison Estabrook is back on the show with her colleague, Dr. Anupama Goel. And Dr. Estabrook is the medical expert for our cancer care program, of course, here at the JCC. And without her, our free JCC cancer care program, all of the programs that we have, from the cooking classes to the meditation programs to the massage, which I'm so excited when we're going to get that back,
Oh, that's amazing.
would not exist, right? So come on to the show, Dr. Estabrook. Just so everybody knows, she's a nationally recognized breast cancer surgeon and top doctor, a professor of surgery at Icahn School of Music at Mount Sinai, and it has a named professorship actually at NYU School of Medicine. And she recently retired, much to everyone's disappointment, except for yours, Alison, because you certainly deserve to retire. But we have known each other well because we've been collaborating for over 16 years. And Dr. Anupama Goel is the assistant professor of medicine, hematology, and medical oncology at the Icahn School of Music. She received her MD from there and did her internship in India. She did a residency in internal medicine at St. Barnabas Hospital and a fellowship in hematology and oncology at St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital, now known as Mount Sinai West. We welcome our doctors to the show.
Hi, Caroline.
Hey.
Hi, Mandy.
Hi, Dr.
What a song.
Hi, everybody.
Right.
What a song.
Right.
Really, just beautiful. Just really hits that internal chord. Got to be fearless.
Yeah. So true, so true. So Dr. Estabrook, let's start with you. During our shows, we learned when you are diagnosed with cancer, you will see and most likely be treated by more than one medical specialist. Some people don't know that. You actually could say that you're treated by a team. Can you explain why that is and why you work so often with Dr. Goel?
Yes, so breast cancer starts in the breast, but it can move to other organs in your body. So we have a team of specialists that is going to treat every aspect of the breast cancer. So I'm a surgeon and I take out the breast cancer, and sometimes we have plastic surgeons. If I have to do a mastectomy, and we reconstruct the breast, and we heard from a plastic surgeon last month. And then to treat what we call the metastases, or the possibility of metastases, we have a medical oncologist, Dr. Goel, who's here today, to either discuss chemotherapy or hormonal therapy or both therapies with the patient. And sometimes we involve a radiation oncologist. So the specialists are surgeons, a medical oncologist, and a radiation oncologist.
Great. Hence the reason for our 3-part series. And Mandy, did you also have this kind of team for when you went through your treatment?
Yes, I did. I was very lucky to have, first of all, very lucky that I had a mammogram and that they found this and that it could be treated. So I was very lucky to have an incredible surgeon and an oncologist, as well as a radiologist, because I went through all the different steps that you have to go through.
Wow. And Dr. Anu, what questions should a new patient, let's talk about that first meeting. What questions should a new patient be asking their doctor?
I think the 2 most important questions everybody should know is the stage of their cancer and whether they need any genetic testing or not. And I think every breast cancer patient should have answer to those 2 very important questions.
Yeah. And Dr. Estabrook, would you say that it's important, and Mandy, I wonder if you did this, to bring somebody with you? It's like when you hear the words, you have cancer or you need chemotherapy or radiation, it feels like, you would stop listening at some point, and having somebody with you would be essential. Is that something you recommend?
Absolutely, because all of this is very new. It's, thank God, routine for us since we do this every day, but it's new. All the words are new, the concepts are new, the biology is new. So once you get, once we start talking to someone, they stop, listening, and they're focused on one thing. And we don't understand that as doctors. So it's good to have somebody there taking notes, listening, and I hope ask questions at the end so that everything is clear and the person has a friend or a relative to talk to after they meet with the doctor.
Yeah, Mandy, there was a question in the chat about from Vanessa about how you were able to manage balancing chemo and work. And I wonder if you want to answer that now or after we.
No, I think that it was very difficult. I don't think, like everything in life, I try to be as balanced as possible, and that I always fail in some sort of way. I'm always like, wait a minute, I thought that I had this balanced, and I did have this the show must go on kind of mentality, and for me, I think it really helped me to go to work and to be able to sing. I think that that would have been really hard for me uh, to have lost that, and so I pushed myself pretty hard. And it's when I started chemo and then I went for my second treatment and my body just said, nope, you're not going to do this. And that's when I started to do less shows and things like that. But I did a
Mhm.
chemo called CMF.
Yeah.
So for whatever reason, I made it through.
And Dr. Goel, that's not uncommon, right? There's a cycle with chemotherapy in terms of, it being more intense when you get the chemo. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? It seems to me like the number one question you must get from your patients is probably about side effects. Is that true?
That is absolutely correct. And I always remind my patients that chemotherapy is like going through a roller coaster. You come for the treatment, that's one of your best days. And then after 3 or 4 days, you're at your lowest peak. So it kind of goes in cycles. So there are a few days when you're doing well, there are a few days when you don't do well. But I agree, going to work and maintaining your schedule is very, very important, but also to listen to your body. If your body says no, then you should rest and take care of yourself.
Wonderful. There are certain scores from mammoprint and Oconotype tests related to chemo. Can you talk about that and what that is so that people maybe who haven't heard of that before can understand what those might mean and when you would have those scores and they would be
Sure.
relevant?
Sure, not all breast cancers are same. Even with different stages of breast cancer, biology plays a very important role on how a person will do over the years in regards to breast cancer. So for patients who are lymph node negative, meaning that the cancer is only in the breast and has not gone to the lymph node, we tend to do what's called an oncotype. It's a test done on the piece of the tumor which was removed at the time of the surgery. And they do an analysis of different genes in that tumor. And based on which genes are present or which genes are absent, it comes up with their score. And that predicts for the risk of cancer returning anywhere in the body over the next 10 years. And if the score is high, means that the risk of cancer coming back is high enough that hormone therapy, which are in the form of the tablets, are not enough to cure that cancer. And in that scenario, we supplement it with chemotherapy.
Gotcha.
And mammoprint is something very similar. Instead of checking 21 genes in oncotype, mammoprint checks for 70 different genes. It's a slightly different test, and we prefer to do that test when your lymph nodes are involved, especially in young women where oncotype doesn't help us a lot.
Great. Wow. What are some of the common side effects of chemo and what can you do about them?
Depending on what kind of chemotherapy one is receiving for breast cancer, the side effects can vary significantly. In my mind, I tend to divide chemotherapy into 3 different strands. There's a milder form, a moderate, and a significant form. But the most common side effects one can notice is significant fatigue, nausea. There can be a neuropathy, which we describe as numbness and tingling in hands and feet, loss of hair, an effect on the heart, effect on the fertility, and the sexual health of a person.
Mm. And Mandy, did you experience any of these side effects? And did you have any clues? Did any of your singing help you with them or breathing techniques or anything?
Definitely. I definitely had side effects, and I I got sores in my mouth, which was a big side effect for me. And the reason I noticed it so much is because I was singing, and that made it difficult, because it was painful. And
Mhm.
so that was a big side effect for me. But immediately when I did have some kind of side effect, I would tell the nurses there, and they would help me and tell the doctor so that I could get different kinds of ointments to help myself. And then whenever I had those days where I couldn't get out of bed, and because those days do happen, I would watch TV, and I'm happy to say that I watched all 12 seasons of Cheers, and each one was fabulous. But it did it. Those kind of things help me. So it helped me to, you know, watch Bridgerton or whatever it is that's going to make you feel happy, you know, because
Yeah.
when you are feeling crampish and those kind of feelings happen, it's good to have something to just let your
Take your
mind,
mind.
yeah, let your
Yeah.
mind wander.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Dr. Goel, loss of taste and smell, and again, can lead to loss of appetite. You said that it isn't always true that people lose lots of weight on chemotherapy. What can you add to your diet to make food more palatable? Because good nutrition is really important, but if there's mouth sores or nausea, it can really interfere with what we eat.
Absolutely. Loss of taste is very, very common, and it's because of the damage to the taste buds from the chemotherapy. In general, I recommend patients that they can add like ginger, garlic, and lemon to their diet, and that tends to really help with the taste. Ginger is an excellent home remedy, which can help with the nausea as well. Talking to the nutritionist is extremely important, and most centers these days have a nutritionist in house, and we recommend patients that they should talk with them on a regular basis.
And what about sexual health and fertility, especially if a woman is on the younger side or in her reproductive years? Isn't this something that she should be discussing with a fertility specialist before chemo or radiation? Or can you talk a little bit about that? So what are some of the important facts that people should know that sometimes they aren't aware of?
Absolutely. Fertility is a very, very important part of the discussion with a young person during the start of the chemotherapy. All this discussion has to be done before patients gets even the first round of chemotherapy. So it's very, very difficult for patients. Not only they get the news of the cancer that they need chemotherapy, and now suddenly they have to discuss the fertility. We do work very closely with fertility specialists so that if the patient has to have their eggs frozen, we can quickly get them through that process. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is that when you're on the chemotherapy, it is important not to get pregnant. And also when you're on the hormone therapy, which can last for 5 or 10 years, unfortunately, we don't want patients to get pregnant because it's not safe for the fetus. So there's a lot of discussion which starts at the time of the diagnosis and is an ongoing discussion with the patients. And for women who are in their menopause, when we put them on hormone therapy, that's another different challenge because it can cause significant vaginal dryness. So that's also very, very important to discuss and make sure that patients are not suffering from that because patients are nervous to talk about these topics.
Right. And that's where our nurses come in, right, Mandy? They're so helpful.
And friends, you know, friends that have gone through what you're going through. It's so important if you feel comfortable to reach out, because I remember when I talked to one of my friends who went through breast cancer, and she said, "Oh, if you get those hot flashes, I'm going to get you these beads that you put in the freezer and then you can wear them." And it really saved my life. And honestly, not like literally, but it was such a comfort. And my husband loved him too. Like he would be mowing the lawn and all of a sudden I would see him wearing my beads that were, you know, frozen. So those are for me. But those little secrets that some people aren't going to know or tell you, you know, it's always good to reach out to a friend too.
Yeah, and let's talk about hair loss and cooling caps for a moment. Dr. Goel, what do you think of them? And I think, Mandy, didn't you use a cooling cap
Yes, I
when you
did.
went through? Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Cooling caps are very, very helpful. We have now an FDA approved cooling cap called a Digni cap, which is available at most centers these days. And there's also something called penguin cap. The way it works is that, you know, when the head is made very cold with the help of these caps, the blood vessels on the scalp, they close. So the chemotherapy is not flowing through those blood vessels and help to decrease the amount of hair loss. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for every kind of chemotherapy regimen we use for breast cancer, but thankfully for most of them, it does work.
That's awesome. We have a question from Deborah in the chat. She said, I just finished with my chemo. The last infusion was 3 months ago. I'm wondering when I'll feel like my old self again, energy, neuropathy, etc. I'm not sure if I'm just being impatient or if I should be feeling fine by now. Any ideas for her, Dr. Goel or
Sure.
Mandy?
It's a very big misconception we all have that we once finish the chemotherapy, you're going to feel completely normal within 2 weeks. It does not happen. It can take up to 6 months to a year to feel like yourself. But I assure you, every passing week, you're going to feel better, but you're not going to feel like yourself completely for a long time. But every day is going to be better.
Mandy, was that your experience?
Absolutely. And I was very impatient. I was like, because I'm a runner and I wanted to start running right away. And I'm like, well, I'll just start running right away and that's what I'll do. And I really had to, I feel for you, Deborah. First of all, congrats on completing chemo. That's wonderful news. And now you just allow yourself to be as patient as possible. Use the time what I did was I would take a walk around the block. And then I would take around 2 blocks. And then the next day, 3 blocks, or the next week, 3 blocks. Start small and celebrate the small triumphs.
Beautiful. Dr. Goel, what should patients on chemo do about COVID vaccinations? I know we had someone recently say that she needs to stay inside because she's getting chemo, and her doctor said, I just don't want you to get your vaccination right now.
Now, everybody should be able to get vaccinations right now, whether you are in chemotherapy or you're not in chemotherapy. The guidelines are no matter what cycle of chemotherapy, what chemotherapy one is receiving for breast cancer, you should be able to get the COVID vaccine.
Okay, well, that's great. Well, I think she's listening on the call because she sent that question in to me, and she said they just didn't want her to take it because they felt she was too weak. But that's good news, so she can maybe ask them again. Dr. Estabrook, in the past, when we've been talking about this with Mandy, we went through a whole year. Can you believe it? We're going to be a year with this.
Wow.
We're going to celebrate in June. We discussed how during COVID, Mandy wasn't able to bring someone with her during the chemo treatments, and why, we were talking about why it was so important to have an advocate and attend treatment, but people haven't been able to do that. Do you want to comment on that? And Mandy, can you talk about that too? Because sometimes you were able to do it pre-COVID, and then COVID hit and you had to go by yourself.
Yeah, it was a terrible time. It was a terrible time in the hospital. And, we didn't want anybody else in the hospitals, because they could be exposed to patients with COVID and, or nursing staff, it was a terrible time. So, I think it's very sad for the patients who are undergoing chemotherapy by themselves. I mean, it's nice to have somebody sit with you, talk to you, read to you, hold your hand, help you with the Digny cap or, whatever they do, distract you from getting it and help you pass the time. So luckily now people are allowed in. Isn't that true? I know people are allowed in.
Yes, they're now allowed in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mandy, did you want to comment at all on that for you?
No, I think that it was really hard. It was really hard not to have anybody with me to hold my hand. But, you do what you can do. I had my friends with me on FaceTime. And then, like I said, it was the nurses that really were there for all of us to say that we're here with you. I remember this one woman, her name was Linda, that she held my hand in the beginning, and she had gloves on and was very safe, but she knew in that moment that I needed her, and she was right there for me.
Bless our nurses
Mm-hmm.
and those people. Yeah. Well, Dr. Anu and Dr. Estabrook, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Is there anything that Anu surprises you at all when you're working with people? I think once you said that sometimes that people don't know their stage of their cancer or anything like that, that you just want to say to our audience, please make sure you ask your doctor or do this or anything any last words of advice?
They should be very frank with their doctors. You should not be nervous in asking any questions. I think every question is extremely important. Now, doesn't matter how small the question is. The more questions you ask, I think it tells us that you're able to understand what you're going through. So please feel free to speak with your physicians and tell them if something doesn't feel right.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Great
I
advice.
agree with that. I mean, you want to know, what is the goal of the treatment? What is the stage of your cancer? Why are you getting these treatments? What is the purpose of them? You know, whatever questions you have, and like the questions that were discussed tonight, how can nutrition help you, or exercise, what to expect? You know, I think, you know, all of the questions that we discussed tonight, it was great to hear from Mandy, and, you know, her perspective in being a patient. So, you know, we like to answer questions because we want to be sure that we're all on the same page. We're, as we said, we're a team, and the patient's a member of the team. So that's good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being a member of our team. And I am hoping you will come back, Dr. Goel, to talk to us about hormone therapy in, what month are we in? May? Are we in May?
July.
It all runs
I shall
together,
come
doesn't
back.
it, Mandy? Yeah, May,
No.
June, July. Yes, for the third part of our series. Thank you again so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
You're welcome. We have a very wonderful guest who happens to be visiting with us while she's on her honeymoon. Sonya Keshwani was diagnosed with breast cancer at age 29, and she founded StyleEsteem wardrobe when she lost her hair due to chemo, and she needed a comfortable and a fashionable solution. Sonya launched StyleEsteem to give other women the same option she had: runaway worthy head wraps for every season and occasion, so you can live your best life while you heal. Self-esteem head wraps have been presented at New York Fashion Week and been covered by Good Morning America, Cancer Wellness Magazine, and many more. Welcome, Sonya. Sonya is joining us from her honeymoon in Hawaii.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This has been such a wonderful
Sonya.
event. I'm so honored to be part of it.
Can you see that beautiful background, Mandy? Doesn't it make you want to?
First of all, congratulations. And
Thank
Sonya,
you.
what part of Hawaii are you in?
Right now we're in Big Island. We
Oh.
started off our honeymoon in Maui, which was just amazing. So we've been in Big Island for a few days now, and we'll be departing for our next island tonight.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah.
And you look fabulous. I
I
love
know,
the head
doesn't
wrap.
she?
You.
Yeah,
You too.
gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you know what? Sonya and I got a little bit of a chance to talk beforehand, and I got to hear her story of how she met her guy, and she actually met her guy post-cancer. So,
Nice.
and they sort of survived the pandemic and got married, and now they're on their honeymoon.
It's amazing. I think I know my segment is about hair loss, but if I could give one piece of dating advice,
Sure.
During cancer, if you happen to be single like I was, it's okay. Spend that time focusing on you, focusing on your health and on healing and getting better and getting to a new point in your life that makes you happy, because it has to be about having, you know, your own personal reasons for going forward and healing. It's not just a given. You have to find your purpose in that time. And so when you build that new life for yourself and become happy and confident within who you are, you will find the right people, whether it's the right communities, the right friends, or the right significant other. I think it's about focusing on yourself first, and you should never shy away from that or feel guilty about that.
Wonderful. Wow, Sonya, you turned lemons into lemonade with your cancer diagnosis on so many levels. And what was your reaction when you first found out you had cancer and needed chemo?
Sure. It was very shocking for me because I was 29. On top of that, I didn't have any family history. I found my lump by accident. It was just, me taking a shower and feeling something unusual on my body and getting that checked out. But no one, not myself, not my mother, not my doctor, no one was expecting to get back that result. And so when that happened, I immediately went into fight or flight mode. I, to an extent, didn't even have time to process all of this that was happening to me. I had to just show up for myself and make the tough decisions and move forward, because I think Mandy mentioned, it's like you have to do what you have to do, or you do what you can, really, to kind of keep it going one day after the next. And so that's what I started to do. I started to take it one day at a time. And here I am 3 years later, still taking it one day at a time, but surviving and thriving the best I can.
Wow. And tell us how you got started with your StyleEsteem business.
Yeah, so during chemo, I was initially told by my oncologist, you've gotten your first round of treatment, you're going to come back for your second round, but before you come back, your hair is going to start to fall out. So just make sure you buy a wig and be prepared for it. So I bought a wig. I was like, let me go blonde for a little bit. Let's see how life is like as a blonde. And it was fun for the first 5 minutes. And then I quickly realized, like, this is the middle of the summer. A wig is way too hot, way too itchy, uncomfortable. I actually started to travel to work with my wig in a Ziploc bag on the bus. And I was like, this is not good. I have to find some other solution here. So I started to look for turbans online, and everything I found kind of made me feel like a cancer patient or made me look like a cancer patient. And I just wanted to look like myself. I wanted something that was fashionable and stylish. And I just wanted to dress up like I always had it, because I love fashion. I love to go out and be social. And so that's what I was looking for from a head wrap. And so I actually started visiting a fabric shop next to my infusion center. And I would bring home swatches of cloth. And during recovery, each time I would sew and experiment with, different styles and silhouettes. And I came up with styles that I really liked. And it changed my quality of life. I was going out more. I was going to the movies more, going for walks, doing the little things that really made my life feel a little bit more normal and relaxed. And so that just made me feel like, if I'm going through this and if this makes a big difference to me, I can only imagine if I share this with other women, what difference it will make to them. And so that's why I created a space where women can shop for turbans the same way they shop for clothes, by season and occasion. And that's since also evolved into a community where we do hair loss support for women in all stages of their hair journey, before, during, and after treatment.
Wow. And Mandy, do you hear that a lot from folks that talk with you about scalp treatment, hair loss, wigs being uncomfortable or wigs being comfortable? Have you had?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think that very similar to Sonya, when you first hear, well, I'm going to, lose my hair, or that's your eyebrows, or things like that, it's very scary. And you start, I don't know about you, but you start to look for things that you can wear and things that will be comfortable. And it's really hard to find those things that feel like you. Well, if I'm going to be bald, then this feels good. So I love, Sonya, that you started this business and you have continued to go further with it. And can you order from the website? Can you order for friends that are possibly going through treatment at this time?
Sure. Yeah, we actually have a website, StyleEsteemshop.com, where you can order just turbans by themselves. We have several that are like matching sets, like for mommy and me, which actually one of the matching sets is a lemon one. So if you want to just really wear your lemonade on your shoulders, I guess this is how you would do it. But there's that. We also came up with temporary tattoo for women who want to do henna crowns. Either if you have never done one before and you just want to try it out, or you still are socially distancing and don't want to have someone do it for you, you can do it yourself at home. So we have little henna tattoo packets for you to do a henna crown if you're going to the beach, or you want to just do something special for the summer, and then some accessories as well. So you can kind of mix and match. If you're doing a gift, you can kind of get a few different things that you think the patient will enjoy, because it's all about having fun. I mean, this, at the end of the day, it's fashion, and it's about the way you look, and it should always be about having fun and experimenting and finding new ways to love your look.
Oh, Vanessa in the chat says, Sonia's head wraps are the best. Wore them to all my infusions. Sonia, what are your tips for scalp care post chemo? And before you answer that, I am so into fashion. I want to see, can you do something for us?
Sure. So how about, let me do an outfit change live on camera. This is actually one of our newer styles, which is lined with satin. And has cotton on the outside, satin on the inside. So this is really great for like long haul travel. Like if I'm doing a long flight, like I'm going to be doing back to New York soon, I'll wear this just so my hair doesn't get frayed or frizzy or have breakage. But if I'm kind of going out during the day, let me actually put this one on. This is a style that we haven't released yet, but I just wanted to do like a sneak peek. So this is like a really fun summery
love
beach
that.
Oh,
style.
look at that.
So this is something I might wear, you know, if I'm going out to the beach here in Hawaii, or if I'm just going out to brunch on a Sunday. This would be something really fun to just put on and, you know, let the turban do the work for me pretty much, because it's you know, it's a statement piece. It's something that kind of turns heads for all the right reasons. I think, you know, when you're going through treatment, you become very self-conscious by thinking, oh, I look sick, or I look like I'm going through treatment. But this is something that just, I think, exudes confidence and sassiness. So
Absolutely.
I just
And
love that part.
yeah, we had a question in the chat, which was the one that you had on previous. What
Yes.
is that style called? Someone is interested in that one, if they were
Sure.
interesting.
So these are the satin lined cotton wraps.
Okay.
And the name is called Living My Best Style. So like actually we have all the wraps are named something punny and inspiring. So this one is basically, the idea is that you can wear it anywhere, anytime, doing whatever it is that you love to do, and you'll be taking care of your hair and your scalp throughout that entire time because it's satin lined. So that's what it's called. You can search for it as satin lined cotton wrap, or Living My Best Style.
That's awesome. Now, Mandy, I just want to be sensitive to time because you have another event. How are you doing?
I'm gonna have to leave, but I had to hear all of this. And Sonia, I love also that you do the mommy and me, because that was a big discussion with my daughter, who is now almost 10, which is so crazy. But it
Wow.
was like, well, are you gonna lose your hair? And you know, I don't want to shave my head too, because a lot of people do
Yeah.
that for their family members. I said, well,
Yeah.
you don't have to do that, but to have
Yeah.
something that it's like, oh, the two of us together, that's really
Yeah.
wonderful.
I can definitely understand that. Although I don't have children myself, I have a very young sister. She was 10 when I was going through chemo. So I can completely relate to you and how important it is to make family feel included and feel like you're part of a team, and make something memorable and special of it. And positive.
Yeah. Well, we're
Yeah.
going to say goodbye to Mandy and wish her luck again in
Bye, Mandy.
the chat, in
Happy
the
honeymoon.
comments. If you want to join Mandy at 7 o'clock for her book signing, we'll have that link in the chat so that you can do that, or the comment section. And then we're going to be joined by Melissa Rosen, who introduced us to Sonya, and we're going to be talking about scalp health. And Sonya, can you tell us a little bit about, like, the scalp is really tender, and what are some of the things that you can do to help promote hair growth after chemo?
So the way I look at it is, your scalp is basically a canvas for healthy hair growth, and you can do things from the very beginning, from during the active hair loss all the way through to the, you know, to the point where you have that long healthy hair again. One thing I would definitely recommend, especially in the summer months, is first and foremost, keep your scalp clean. You can do like a hot towel, like a warm towel wash to your scalp anytime you come in from the outside, just to keep your scalp bacteria free. And then I would also recommend, when you are going out, using SPF creams, SPF moisturizer. Even if you're wearing a turban, it's always a good idea to protect your scalp, because as you said, it is very sensitive at that time. To promote healthy hair growth, I would highly recommend taking coconut oil, and you can add, like, if you want a little essential oil in there, if there's a particular scent you like, whether it's rosemary or lavender, you can add that in there as well. But like taking a nice amount to your scalp, and then just giving a good massage, you know, maybe once a day, twice a day. The benefits are that it's actually really soothing and comforting, and then it also promotes follicle health, because it brings oxygen to your follicles. So even when you don't have active hair growth, it's a really good idea to keep those follicles, you know, active and healthy. So scalp massages for sure, SPF, and keeping your scalp clean, especially for the summer.
We had a question from Terry Dupuy, who is actually the teacher in our swim program. We have, when we open the JCC pool back up for group classes, where it's open, but it's not open for group classes. And she was wondering, do you make any swim caps?
You know what? That is a wonderful question, because this entire time in Hawaii, I was thinking to myself, why don't we carry that? Because, you know, this should translate into every aspect of life. So I think that might be the next product. So
So
keep an
stay
eye out for
tuned.
that. Yes, please.
Well, I want to just introduce Melissa Rosen. She's a breast cancer survivor and director of community education from Sharsheret, and she's here to answer a few questions about the psychology of losing one's hair. You know, Melissa, thank you for joining us again, and thank you so much for helping us to organize this series of tackling your fear of cancer treatments and their side effects, this 3-part series, and for introducing us, of course, to Sonya. When faced with breast cancer, women can feel overwhelmed with so much going on, right? We've really been talking about that, and that's very clear. They're literally thinking about and doing all they can to survive. So some may ask themselves, why am I so upset about the prospect of losing my hair? There's so much more important right now. What do you say to them?
So, you said people are feeling overwhelmed, and that's true. And I think part of the reason people feel overwhelmed, in addition to processing that information and making decisions, is that cancer often comes with a loss of control. And that is a very scary thing. And one of the ways we control our lives is how we present ourselves to the world. And then on top of that, if we're talking about breast cancer, we have to mention that we may be impacted by the way we view ourselves as women. If we've lost our breasts, if there are issues of fertility, and there are other ways that we present ourselves as women too, including our hair. And it may seem like this is something that shouldn't be worrying me right now, shouldn't be a big deal right now, right? I'm literally fighting for my life while I'm in treatment. But the thing is, cancer isn't just a physical experience. It's also an emotional experience. And for some, it's a spiritual experience. And getting through cancer and healing from a cancer experience requires addressing all of those things. And it's a very real concern, so much so that I've spoken with women who want to change the type of treatment the doctor recommends so they won't lose their hair. So think about that for a second. It's such an important issue to so many women that they'd rather take a less optimal treatment than lose their hair. And that's really how critical it is. And it's a very, very valid concern. And so there are a lot of ways we can deal with it. And Sonya has provided not only some beautiful options, but also spoken about having fun and putting yourself out there. And I think that's really important too, right? We can divert attention from it if it's something we're worried about being embarrassed in public by putting on a beautiful turban or some fun clothes or doing the henna that she was talking about. Humor, always a big thing. And some people really benefit from visualization. As hard as it is to accept the loss of hair, if you visualize the chemotherapy getting to everywhere it needs to get, so and getting rid of those cancer cells, then maybe that makes it easier. But nobody should ever poo-poo, I'm sure there's a better word, but nobody should ever poo-poo their feelings about hair loss. It's incredibly important and can be addressed in many, many ways. Plus, when it grows back, you can have a ton of fun doing really punk hairstyles until it gets long again. I had a period of that. Things you would never do before, you can try while it's growing back.
Sonya, do you feel like your hair is different now that it's grown back than it was before?
That's a great question. For a lot of women, it's a very common thing that your hair grows back differently. I've done a number of interviews on our blogs where women will say, well, I had 4C curly African hair and initially it came back bone straight and white. So for me, my hair it did have a slight change. I did get more grays in my hair when it started to come back. But it used to be very curly and long, and it's come back very curly. The curl pattern is a bit different. I think the chemo changed that, and that's also not an uncommon thing. So I'm learning kind of what new hair products work for me, what new techniques work for me because curly hair is very precarious to begin with, but you know, knowing all the techniques and tips that I used before as a curly girl really helped me. And that's something that can be tricky if you're doing curly hair for the first time in your life. It can be very cumbersome, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, and Jill in the chat said and shared, I found it easier to accept the hair loss by thinking that the loss of the hair was a sign I was getting better, not that the hair made me look sick. Yeah. That's wonderful. That's a great way to look at it. We only have a few moments, but Melissa, I wondered if you could just comment about that, about wearing a wig, because for some people wearing wigs is an option that they want to pursue. And what would you say to that?
A wig is definitely one of the many options you can use if you want to cover a bald head or a head where the hair has gotten very fragile. And the one thing I want to say about wigs is it doesn't have to be. You don't always have to wear a wig. You don't always have to wear a turban. You don't always have to do anything. You can have fun and mix it up. And there are a lot of places that that you can get wigs, either ready-made in a lot of shops. One of the things that Sharsheret does is offers need-based subsidies to get a free human hair wig and styling. And you can reach out to Sharsheret there, and the website's right there. You can reach out to Sharsheret to find out how to go about doing that. But some people love it. Some people find it impossibly hot, as Sonya mentioned. But either way, it's an option, and it can be explored, absolutely.
And that's what our show is all about, right? It's about what are the options and thinking about different things that we may not have thought about before. And Sonya, I want one of your turbans. I was even thinking that you could sleep in that. Do you ever sleep in those?
Yes, especially the satin lined ones. I think that's such a well-kept secret, which is like, you know, if you wear one of those, it's great for your hair, it's great for your scalp, and it also looks really cute. So if you're going to sleep in them, I would recommend a satin lined one for sure.
Awesome. And is your hubby there? Can we say hi to him?
He is.
We want to congratulate you both if he wants to come over, and just thank you, Melissa, as always. It's so great to see you. And we partnered recently. There he is. Hey. Hi. Well, thank you for sharing your beautiful and lovely bride with us tonight. And everyone here at Sharsheret and at the JCC, and I know Mandy, we just wish you the best. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So much happiness. We're going to end tonight's show with a little dance, a Nia dance. I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you so much, Melissa and Sonya, for joining us tonight. You can stay on camera and do some Nia with me. We're just going to move our feet and our hands a little bit. The song is called Gotta Move My Feet. You can stay standing or seated, anybody, whatever is comfortable for you. We're going to move. And before we go, I just want to thank the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan for sponsoring this program. Of course, Dr. Alison Estabrook for helping me create it. We also want to thank Sharsheret for being our co-sponsor here, and the American Cancer Society and the NIA Technique for endorsing our program. Please check the Q&A for links to everything we've talked about tonight, including Mandy's book and Sonya's turbans and Melissa's free wigs with Sharsheret, and of course the JCC Cancer Care programs, which are free and easily accessible at www.mmjccm.org/cancer-care. And here we go. Start with your hands, everybody. We're gonna move them forward and back like this. Now, squeeze, release. Really important to squeeze, release. Every healthy cell in your body squeezes and releases. Now, how about your elbows? Open and closing, shoulders. We want to move every joint, hips. You can bend a knee. And then move your feet. Walk around Just moving is so good for you. Really important, we talked about the head. I want you to look around. Move your head. Now, keep your feet nice and solid here and look around, moving your head gently, great for your neck. Good. Let's do a little heel and toe. Heel and toe. Heel and toe. Now move any way you like. Your elbows, your shoulders, your hands. Let's do the other side. Heel and toe, heel and toe. Nice. Move any way you want. Good. Beautiful. Let's take a moment just to breathe. Ready? Taking your arms up to the level that feels good to you. One more time. Nice. And let's do Mandy's stretch. Remember we had our hands here? Up and in. Up and in. Let's do 4 more. 4. If I'm going too fast and you want to go slower, nice. You can. Moving your feet, everybody. Heel and toe. Heel and toe. 2 more. 1 more time. Last time. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Good night, everyone. See you soon. And